Hello, and welcome to week one. This video and subsequent videos will provide a brief introduction to the topic and the readings for the week. This video should not serve as a replacement for actually reading the required material. It's just a real brief, I don't even want to call it a summary because it's really not even that. It's just kind of a real brief introduction to that. So this week we're discussing a general introduction to terrorism, including what is terrorism, and how is terrorism studied. Terrorism is something that's very difficult to define. And scholars and practitioners have had a hard time coming to any kind of consensus on what is and what is not terrorism. That old saying, one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. Well, that's alive and well within a terrorism nexus. In the perspective of the person discussing terrorism, oftentimes has a great deal of influence on how they define terrorism and what they believe terrorism to be. And then further complicating this matter is the academic study of terrorism. Because no one can seem to agree on a definition of terrorism, the academic study of terrorism, some would say, has also suffered. And as you'll see in the book, there's numerous aspects of terrorism outlined in the book, as well as varying different academic disciplines that study terrorism. So as you'll see, the study of terrorism is very, very interdisciplinary, and it has researchers from a wide variety of disciplines. And of all these different researchers, various groups have collected data on terrorist incidents and terrorists and terrorist organizations. But most of these data sources are located in the West, which some believe introduces some bias into what is and what is not classified as terrorism. As you'll see when you read Blakely at the end of the chapter, that's one of the points that she makes, is that a lot of the terrorism research and data collections and things are based in the West, and that introduces some West type bias. Also following the chapter in the book is an article by Agnew that examines terrorism and strain theory. And strain theory is one way that criminal justice researchers have used to study terrorism. But there's a whole host of other types of theories, different criminological theories, different political science theories, other social theories that researchers have applied to terrorism, hoping to better define and explain why terrorism occurs. So for those of you that are from a criminological background, I'm sure you're familiar with strain theory. It's a pretty common, well-known theory within criminal justice. So as you read through the article, think about the application of strain theory. And if you're not from criminal justice, think about other theories that you may, from your particular background, that you might think would be able to be applied to terrorism. One of the articles that's listed as included in the readings folder for this week is by Lafree and Dugan, and they discuss how the study of terrorism compares to the study of crime. And this seems to make sense, at least superficially, that since terrorism involves violence and murder, that it would make sense to study this from a criminological perspective, since criminologists often study these particular aspects. So they pose some interesting comparisons and further discuss how terrorism has been studied and how criminological theory can contribute to the study of terrorism. There's also a lecture by Forrest included in the readings folder, and this is just a real kind of general discussion of what is terrorism, kind of the who and the what. So I'm not going to go into much detail on that one, but it's just kind of a really nice overview of kind of what is terrorism. And then the final reading for this week is by Anna Maranu. And this article is interesting because it's written from a practitioner perspective rather than an academic perspective. And his argument is for why criminology is the appropriate discipline to study terrorism. And he focuses on the terrorist threat in the United States and discusses the various types of groups, where they're located, type of threat they pose, etc. He also discusses the role of research in the development of terrorism policy. So Please do read all the materials, and please let me know if you have questions, and be sure to complete the discussion board for this week. That's also located in the folder.